let's put on a freaking banger. Which one am I looking for? I already know which one I'm looking for. Aha. Alright, let's just get this shit out of the way. Sorry, CD player just fell. Also very good album. However, we're doing this one now. It's yellow. Kale Jones, make some noise. Drugs, give me drugs, I don't even need to say what you want. Kiss me. Okay. So basically, lately, I've just kind of been wanting to talk about My Chemical Romance and talk about Danger Days specifically, because there's this story that I tell everyone who I talk to about Danger Days and My Chemical Romance. I don't know. This month, I want to talk about my personal relationship to the album Danger Days by My Chemical Romance. And it's kind of complicated. But basically, this is how me and My Chemical Romance and everything starts. So, imagine this. It's 2013. It's my freshman year of high school. And I'm writing an English essay in the fall semester of 2013. So, I'm also on, like, emo Twitter and stuff at this time. My big emo bands were All Time Low, A Day to Remember, and Pierce the Veil. That was, like, my holy trinity. And also, the House Party Tour was in 2013. And all those bands toured together, and they performed songs that they wrote together also. So, Pierce the Veil, All Time Low, A Day to Remember. I'm super into those bands. And I'm on the emo Twitter. And so I'm on the emo Twitter, and I have some emo online friends. And I still remember the day that My Chemical Romance broke up on Twitter. And everyone was devastated. But I was like, damn, I can tell this is like a big deal, but like, I was like, good thing it's not one of my bands. Is what I remember thinking back then. But, so I'm like, I'm an emo teenager, and I'm aware of emo and MCR, but I don't listen to MCR specifically, or if I do, it's like only in like crumbs of passing. Like, I think one of my first exposures to My Chemical Romance was a Vine of a snake having like a seizure on a beach, and I've tried to go back and look for this Vine, but I can't really find it. But I tried to make a recreation, which I'll insert here. Yeah, I'll insert my recreation, approximate recreation. Okay, so when I saw the Vine, it's just that tiny little clip from Black Parade. But the only part of Black Parade I'd ever heard before was bam, 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 because, like, obviously everyone knows that part, but I don't think I'd ever gone out of my way to actually listen to Black Parade. So when I heard that Vine, I just thought it was a funny Vine for a while, but then I realized, oh, it's My Chemical Romance, and then I realized, oh, it's Black Parade, and then I was like, okay, My Chemical Romance is actually, I kind of like this. I like what I'm hearing. But I didn't go into more than that. I was just like, oh, I like this song by MCR. Interesting that, I don't know, the Snake, the fuck, man, Snake Vine Black Parade, I don't know. Anyways, so back then, back in the day, it was fall semester of freshman year, 2013, writing an English essay. I'm sat down on the family computer, and I think to myself, why don't I just try listening to My Chemical Romance and give that a try? Because I've heard about it so much, I'm going to be here for a while, might as well give it a try. So I go on YouTube, and I type in My Chemical Romance full album. And it was 2013, so I think the newest result that came up, like the first result, was Danger Days. And so, and I remember seeing the spider all over social media and stuff. Like, I feel like the spider was, like, very, like, social media-able, or, like, aesthetic or something. And, like, kids were posting that a lot. It was, like, it's a good piece of iconography, right? The spider. And so I saw the spider a lot, and then I think it was just the newest result because it was the newest album. It was only like 3 years old at that point. And so I clicked on it, and I just let it run. And I remember sitting there typing my essay, and I was just like, this is like... I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, this is what everyone thinks is the most emo band of all time? This is what people think is like quintessential emo, the most emo band ever made, like the emo gods. Like, this is what people think is emo. And then I just thought to myself, I'm like, no one knows what emo is if they think this album is the most emo, like, emo king album ever. Like, so I basically listened to Danger Days, and from my understanding, My Chemical Romance was the most emo band of all time. Like, emo, like the peak of emo, like the king of the emo scene. And so I listened to Danger Days all the way through, and I said to myself, I said, no one knows what they're talking about. This is not an emo band. This is not even emo at all. No one knows what they're talking about. So My Chemical Romance, like, everyone who says My Chemical Romance is so emo just has no idea what they're talking about. And so, at that point, I wrote off My Chemical Romance for the next... I just wrote them off. I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna look into their other stuff. And I didn't. And that was 2013. I didn't ever try listening to them again. I was just like, yeah, I know they're not emo, and everyone doesn't know what they're talking about. Everyone doesn't know what they're talking about. And so 7 years go by. 7 years. And then 2020 happens, and it's the pandemic. And my friend, my old best friend, really was into, like, MCR, Green Day, like, other, like, classic old emo bangers. And so we're driving around in the car, and it's COVID times, and we're spending a lot of time together, and I think I'm just in the passenger seat a lot of the time when we're, like, doing stuff, and he's just playing MCR in the car. And I'm just like, damn. He was playing 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. And it was fucking amazing. It changed my life. I was like, damn, what is this? And I think my first favorite song, or I think the ones that stood out to me the most back then were Cemetery Drive and Helena. Obviously, everyone loves Helena. Everyone loves every song on the album. Like, easy to love. But, yeah, so I didn't even try listening to My Chemical Romance again for 7 years. And I wasn't even the one who put it on. I was just hearing it because my friend had it on. So if it wasn't for my friend, I would have never even tried again. And, you know, they have 3 other albums. I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, and The Black Parade. If back in 2013 I had clicked on any of those other 3 albums, and I didn't click on Danger Days, like, I just think about what life I would have had, or, like, what that would have done to me in my mind, in the choices I made and stuff. Like, how would that have affected my life because I know I would have become, like, dead obsessed. Like, it would have, like, just consumed me. But yeah, so, I mean, so my feelings towards Danger Days is that, well, I don't know, so then I got into My Chemical Romance again in 2020, and I got really into 3 Cheers, I got really into Bullets and 3 Cheers, Black Parade, I liked it too, but I think my order of my preferences goes the oldest to newest, just, like, straight up, like, I like it from, like, Bullets, Revenge, Black Parade, Danger Days. I think that's, like, a good ranked order for how I would describe how much I like the album. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so back then 2020, I get into music other than Danger Days, and I'm like, damn, I'm feeling like FOMO. I'm just feeling like FOMO. But I get really into it. And then in 2022, I go to the Swarm Tour, and I buy the pit tickets and stuff, and I'm, like, right in the front row. I'm in the front row at Swarm Tour.
Turning now to the Wikipedia's profile. Enough for the story of a life. And if they get me on the side, goes down into another round. But if they get me, say this smile to my heart, and if they get me on the side, goes down. And if they get me, take this ride. Well, you better swing it like fuck it. And if the sun shines up, well, it's in.
And I was actually kind of like, I don't know if it's like casual. I guess I was casually, or, you know, the way I used to, I used to enjoy MCR as, like, just the music. So I'm gonna be so real, I did not even know, like, the members' names, barely. Like, I remember even being in, like, I was a really, really big fan, like, I loved the music, but I just wasn't, like, into the fandom, and I, like, barely knew the artists in the band, like Ray, Frank, Mikey. Or I was like, or I think I was unfamiliar, I was like, it's still all the original members, because I remember vaguely hearing something about the drummer at the time, because, like, that was a thing. I don't know, I was just, like, I mainly just listened to the music. I wasn't part of the fandom, and I think if I got into MCR when I was younger, being a part of the fandom I definitely would have been a part of the fandom when I was younger. Like, I was in the All Time Low, Pierce the Veil fandoms and stuff. But getting into a band like that when you're an adult, it's like you kind of skip the fandom part. So I wonder how that could have changed me when I was younger. But so I was at Swarm Tour. I went to the Tacoma one in Washington, and I was really into it. I fucking loved, I balled out, and I loved it, and went fucking crazy, and I actually got COVID. That was the first time I got COVID, was going to Swarm Tour, and it's because I showed up late to Swarm Tour. Yeah, I showed up late. They were already playing Ghost of You when I showed up, and I was running in there so fast that my mask that I brought fell out of my pocket, and so I just accepted I'm probably going to get COVID, and then I literally did get COVID in 2022 for the first time. I never even got it during a real pandemic. It's just like, damn. Anyway, I'm so sidetracked. Yeah, so I get into them again in 2020, and I'm dead obsessed. I go to Swarm Tour. I'm like a huge fan. I'm in the front row, in the pit. Move on, and here we are in 2025. Right now it's 2026, but I'm reflecting. And in 2025, I go to Long Live the Black Parade in Seattle. And that is the world debut of their Black Parade nostalgia tour. And I just bought I bought tickets in the Ticketmaster war in 2024 in November, I think, is when they were on sale. So I don't know, I just bought random ass tickets. I was like, sure, boop boop, I'll buy. And I show up, and I had no idea what the fuck to expect, but it fucking changed my life. At this point, I was in a similar state of being a fan as I was in 2022. I'm super into them, but I'm not a part of the fandom. At this point, I think I'm more familiar with who's Mikey, who's Ray, and stuff like that. But I show up to Seattle in 2025, and I'm like, I don't know, it just changes my life. It was so... I went alone, also. But it, changed my life. And was fucking crazy. And so, I mean, if you've been to the tour, you know. Because, I literally went to that tour. No, I went to Seattle. World premiere of this show. No one had any idea what the hell was about to happen at that show. But then it just started. And I was so moved by it that I chased the tour around the country. I bought tickets to Boston, and then I bought tickets to Atlanta also, because those were dates later on in the summer, and I was chasing that high. I was like, I need to see this again. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And ever since then, I have just been crazy obsessed. Super creatively charged. And it was just fucking amazing. But, okay, so this is the part where I revisit Danger Days. Because back in 2020, when I started listening to them again, I didn't really revisit Danger Days. Because my friend who showed me My Chemical Romance, he didn't really like Danger Days either. So he would never put it on in the car. And I just remember myself not liking it in 2013, so I never put it on again either. But after this summer in 2025, I was so moved by My Chemical Romance. I was like, I think I'm gonna go back to Danger Days. Because maybe, I don't know, give it another shot. And I think I was at a record store and I saw a CD of it, so I bought the CD. And I listened to the CD through, and it was freaking awesome. Now I love Danger Days. But I feel like I love Danger Days now because I understand that it's it's an offshoot or an outlier, or it's just a special other thing that they do and not their main music, you know? So I can appreciate it. as like a little fun thing. But when I thought that's what they were all about, I was like, no. I was like, no. But I don't know. So revisiting Danger Days in 2025, I like it. I like it a lot, but I still have this like low-key hatred. Like, it kept me away from all the other MCR music for 7 years, blah blah blah. I don't know. So I like low-key hold some animosity in my heart for Danger Days for keeping me away from My Chemical Romance for 7 years. But I also enjoy it now. However, Sing is unforgivable. Whenever Sing is on the B stage, I'm just like, that's like the unskippable cutscene for all those people in the stadium. Like, they just have to listen to Sing. Everything else on Danger Days is fine and not offensive, but I think Sing is honestly offensive, and I don't want that one. But everything else, I love it. And I think Vampire Money is just a crazy song to be the last song you ever like drop as a band on like a main album. Like, that's a crazy song to go out on. Vampire Money. But yeah, so Danger Days, I don't know. There was a set in South America this past couple months, past few weeks. There was one set in South America where B Stage had 0 Danger Days. And they didn't even do Na Na Na. And I just thought that was freaking awesome, because there's so many times where they will do No Bullets. So it's like, if we're gonna pretend like Bullets doesn't exist, that's my favorite album. I appreciate that they were able to pretend like Danger Days does not exist. Because that's very rare that they don't play anything off Danger Days. They always throw in Na Na Na, or they do Planetary Go. So, that was like a treat. It was just like a little treat. And I think that's the only no Danger Days set that they've done since like the Swarm Tour. Was a few weeks ago in like South America. Maybe it was like the first or second night in South America. But because I kind of have that low-key animosity, hatred, vendetta against Danger Days, I was like, yes, fuck Danger Days. Get out of here. But I really want to read the comics. I want to read the true lives of the fabulous Killjoys. I think comics is something I'm getting more into. I want to have more comics. I recently got Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and I also really want to read True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, because I am a Danger Days appreciator now, and I am a fan of Danger Days, so the fact that there's a whole ass comic to go with it, I want to learn more about the Danger Days universe and lore. And also, what am I thinking? Oh, I want the Danger Days song I want to hear played live. I want to hear Party Poison. I want to hear Party Poison live. Or, what is it, Save Yourself, I'll Hold Them Back. Those two are my favorite off Danger Days besides Vampire Money. But I feel like they never play those. But, I don't know. I can hope. I can hope. Can you hear it? What gave you cancer? And that's what all life do in the end. So basically, Danger Days kept me away from the rest of My Chemical Romance's discography because it didn't sound like what I thought it was going to sound like. It didn't sound like emo music. I feel like at the time I heard it and I was like, this is like a... Because I feel like at the time, like that time between like 2010 and 2014, 13, the bands were moving away from emo. Everyone was getting straight bangs. Everyone was turning like twee or like indie or whatever you want to say. You just know. It was like things were shifting. And I was like, I listened to this and I'm like, oh, so they're done being emo. They're moving on or whatever. But it's like, whatever. I feel like being not a part of that active transition era, that cultural transition, because I know how, it's like in 2025, 2026, we know how that all shook out, that 2012, 2014 era. But at a time when things were changing, it's like, I don't like change. I don't like change. I'm very autistic. I don't like change. So when I felt like emo was changing, I was like, not happy. But I'm very glad to have MCR in my life now. Thank you, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, for existing and showing me that MCR was so much more than Danger Days. Yeah. Look. I love Danger Days now, okay? I know there's a lot of Danger Days haters. I used to be one for... Well, I wasn't really a hater. I just kind of like heard it, and then I was like, not for me. And then I just left MCR in the dust for 7 years, which kind of sucks, but... Okay, so MCR has been inspiring me like fucking crazy. Like, I started an MCR cover band because I'm so obsessed. I started MCR cover band because I really want to hear Honey This Mirror live, but they never play it. Apparently they haven't played it since 2010 in London. What are they fucking waiting for? I remember going to Storm Tour in 2022. Honey This Mirror is my favorite song they ever made, so I was like, oh, I really hope they play Honey This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us. But since I was like kind of like more of like a casual fan, or I only listened to the music and wasn't part of the fandom or anything, I didn't realize that was like a really rare defunct song. So I just went to Swarm Tour and I was like, man, I really hope they play it. These days I understand. I understand that's not going to happen. So that's why I started an MCR cover band. So that I could hear Honey This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us live. Because I was like, if they're not going to do it, someone has got to do it, and I need to be there to witness it, because I'm just desperate for that. But anyways, so they inspired me to start a band, and I also started drawing a lot. Like, so much. I remember I had laryngitis, and then I was just like, I'm so bored. I need to make art. And the only thing I wanted to make art of was MCR, and so I'm like almost done with the sketchbook. But literally, here's page 1. Page 2, the second thing on there is Danger Days fan art. Party, Poison, and Fungool. So I'm a Danger Days enjoyer. That was like page 2. I'm like, I better get this. Better do this. I better express this yaoi feeling with these Danger Days characters. And Mikey and Gerard. And let me see what else I have. Do I have more? There's a lot in here. I could do a sketchbook tour or something. Where's my Danger... Oh, here's not... It's not Danger Days, but just like Danger Days era Mikey I made for Christmas. And then... Oh, here we go. I drew this Gerard. It's covered in a piece of paper, but... It's Party Poison. Freaking love that. Love him so much. Under Mikey... Cobra Kid. And any more Danger Days in here? Oh yeah. I think that's it, but I do love Danger Days these days. So don't get mad at me. Okay? Yeah, that's all I got for Danger Days in here. Anyways. I don't know. I've just told that same story to people like I talk to in person about MCR like so many times. Like whenever I'm talking about MCR, I always tell that story about Danger Days. So I just kind of wanted to tell it in a lasting format. Also, my outfit is like so Avril Lavigne today. Like, I just feel so Avril. I also learned that the MCR Reddit is always like, they always want MCR to play Scarecrow. Like, they're always Scarecrow betting. They're like, Scarecrow tonight, Scarecrow tonight. But they actually did play Scarecrow the other day. And that's, like, I feel like that's how I found out that they always want Scarecrow. I always want Demolition Lovers and Honey This Mirror. So... Also, I forgot to talk about Destroya. How could I talk about Danger Days without talking about Destroya? Like, that's what sold me. Honestly, over the summer, I was seeing, like, I was getting more into, like, MCR community type posting and, like, stuff like that. And we got... I'm pretty sure Destroya sold me on the album. Like, I bought that. I ended up buying Danger Days because I was like, ooh, Destroya. And you know what I wish? These days, they still perform Destroya to this day. But Gerard is not horny with it. Gerard is not a sicko with it anymore. Like, he does more of like a... He's not doing the male whimpering that we all crave. He's doing like a scary voice instead of like a male moaning whimpering voice. Yeah, I like Destroya. Everyone likes Destroya. I remember at Swarm Tour, I'd never even heard Destroya before, but I remember it was playing live, and I kind of just used that as an opportunity. I was like, I don't even know this song. It must be off Danger Days. So I'm just gonna hang out in the crowd, maybe move up a little bit, wander around, dance around. But I just remember Destroya playing, and I felt like it was like an interlude, or it was just like a filler. I was like, I don't know this song, but okay. And that's the thing, Gerard wasn't playing it like, he wasn't like moaning. He wasn't like, He was just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, he does the scary voice these days, because he's too good to be horny Gerard anymore. But I don't know, like if the first time I ever heard Destroya was live, the first time I ever heard Destroya was live. But if it was the live version where Gerard is actually like moaning, I think I would have been like, I would have stopped for a second and been like, what is this? What is going on? Where am I? But he didn't do that, so it didn't really catch my attention in the same way the recorded version did. Love Destroya. Love Danger Days. Love Gerard. I don't think I have any more thoughts. Oh wait, one more. I made this. I made this. It's Mikey Way. And this is also Mikey Way. And I just keep them on my bed. They're always just sitting on my bed next to my pillow. Here's my bed tour, actually. So here's my bed. There's where they usually are. Here's my Mikeys. Here's my secret shelf. My secret Mikey. And here's my lucky Mikeys. And then I just have more Mikeys over here. And yeah. And in the corner, here's my Mikey Way painting. And my Gerard painting. And my Mikey Way autograph. Ooh. And then more Mikey. And then here's my posters. From Boston. From Seattle. They didn't give these out in Georgia. And this is my favorite picture of Mikey Way ever taken. I call it Mikey Way's Sparkling Pussy. And I printed it out on really big paper at FedEx. And I read Christmas 365 because Mikey Way made it. And also I have Tostitos Mikey.